Hey, so me and my overthinking, just thinking, and I'm sharing some thoughts that one of the things just helped me to adjust internally um, in terms of growth is understanding that there are no absolutes. Or if I'm going to identify something as an absolute, like it's only an absolute from my perspective. Um, and that's not even including anybody else, because honestly, if I shift position, then my perspective and perception will change. So absolutes only exist from the current point and frame of reference at which a thing is being observed. So, and you can apply that to anything. I apply that to myself, which means I'm only right from my perspective in that moment. At the next moment, I have to be willing to accept that that's not a fixed position, because that's the only way growth and change is possible. Like, unless I need to draw a line that say something is, then I try not to, at least in terms of myself, because change is always happening. Like, nothing is ever the same. So that's a couple of things that I've just had to accept. Those aren't thoughts that come to mind first when I'm in the grips of a lot of emotions or heavy emotions. Um, but eventually I can find my way to those as and hold me as an anchor. It doesn't make anything all better, but it keeps me from flipping the fucking table over or just, throwing something out. Another thing that helps is being able to ask myself questions without judgment, like judgment of the question and judgment of my answer. Marquita, why did you do that? Because I thought that was the right thing to do. Oh, okay. Or Marquita, why did you do that? Yeah, I was feeling the way and they deserved it. Now it doesn't mean I'm right, because I mean it could be depending on how that story, that narrative lines up with the way I identify myself, right? So if I identify myself as a fair-minded person, a person of peace and love, then does that agree with me? Because there has to be there has to be agreement. Like math, I'm not a mathematician. I tap out when letters and shapes and shit get involved outside of plus minuses and the basic shit. But the principle is that both sides of that, like things on both sides of the equal sign, have to match. Inside myself, I have to match. Like, is what I'm saying and doing lining up with who I am? Like, where, before I say that's finished? Because otherwise, if I'm operating and drawing a line on something that is not aligned with my core belief about myself, then eventually I'm going to get off track. And you know what? I lived life a long time that way, and the rest of the world was just okay, and I was off. You know what I mean? And in living from that space is small. I can't even say I resented it the whole time, because honestly, for a large part of the time, I didn't realize that it wasn't my story I was living, so to speak, but rather the one that I was led to believe I had to participate in, and however that looked like. You know what I mean? For me, it was don't have babies before you get out of school. You know what I mean? Graduate and get married, and bam, you won the game of life. But that ain't it. You know what I mean? And I think it's unfair. But in any event, trying to unravel, or once I came into the awareness that the game of life wasn't necessarily something to be won, and that the rules was fucked up. The pieces didn't work. Like, I was given checker pieces to play chess on top of a life game board. Like, when you realize shit is just all scrambled, that's it can be crushing. For me, it was crushing inside, and to not be able to find my way out, it would, what it looked like externally to everybody else was probably that I was just doing all the things I was supposed to do. On the inside, it was Marquita not getting out of her bed or leaving her bedroom unless there was something outside of it for me to do, because I didn't want to do those things. You know what I mean? And the little piece of sanity and all of that that I could claim for myself at that time was how I would, retreat inward. And, it wasn't, I could see it in a defensive way. I loved myself and hugged myself all the time because I was doing the best I knew how to do for myself. And that's all we can ever do. So I can accept that. And there are times when, now that I know more things and can do more things, and I those periods are fewer and farther between because I'm more aware of myself, so that I can choose more carefully for the things. If there is an obligation, it's something I chose for myself. If it is a have to, it's something that I wanted to because my desire is necessary. So it meets the definition of a have to. And it might sound like a bratty way to function, but sometimes that's, why not? Like, who lives life trying to have shit other people's way? That's ridiculous. Only person that would say it sounds shitty for me to say I live so I can have things my way would be somebody who doesn't recognize or doesn't have a choice in their own life, because who's surrendering they will? I don't understand that. But anyway, that was just it. I talked much longer than I intended to. The first two things about how to unravel the things hold. Like, it's not really any absolutes. If I find myself like, no, it is, and other things are suggesting that it may not be, then it's probably my ego or some kind of emotional attachment I have to either that position or an emotional resistance to something different, or what I'm imagining as the opposite. So that's probably the biggest thing. Recognize when I'm tripping. Recognize when it's me. Being humble enough to say, not just externally, but internally first, yo, we fucked up. We're not ourselves. We not that. I don't know what happened right there, and it was a glitch. And to forgive myself. And then in the space of time, in the fullness of time, if I harmed or injured somebody with a word or action in that space, then to go apologize, recognize, make amends. I've learned, because I don't particularly like apologizing, I've learned to just shut the fuck up when I don't have good, if there's nothing good going on up here or in here, then nothing's good going to come out here. I know this. That's just math. That's just math for me at this point. I know when I need to shut up. I know when I need to be silent. And it's only been through having people in my life that understand when I'm silent, just leave me alone. She's okay. You know what I mean? I've learned to, we can all trust, because I've learned to say when I need help, that if I ask for help, I don't always get it. But if I ask, it's a need, because I don't like asking either. But I do myself a disservice when I'm in need of support and don't ask for it. That's also just math at this point too. And it's only my emotions that cause me to resist it. So just being honest about the bullshit, and hopefully it'll help you or encourage you to be a little introspective and honest about your bullshit. And together we can clean up this world.